After getting off work on a Saturday night around 1 a.m., I wasn't very tired and wanted to be in a different state that night. My best friend who happened to be at my house waiting for me to get off work had never done LSD or experienced any psychedelic and asked me to get us some acid for the night. This friend will be referred to as S, who is a 19-year-old girl who weighs around 130 lbs. After calling a few of my dealers to see if they had any LSD, I was disappointed to discover everyone was fresh out. However, my primary marijuana dealer happened to still have a stockpile of 2CB and sold me 100 mg for $20. A fair price, I'd say. I had experienced 2CB once before, and not very carefully. The same dealer that sold me the batch let me try some for free a month or two earlier but wouldn't tell me what the dose was, which I do not endorse. I try my best to only consume conservatively suggested doses from a reputable website, and insisted I snort the dose to begin coming up much more rapidly. This was extremely painful and annoying, but more of an irritating feel that left my right eye dripping tears for 20 minutes. I read smoking a bowl really helps during the come up, so I was definitely aware of what was to come and how to handle myself, especially since the snorted dose was massive and extremely powerful. I did thoroughly enjoy my experience though. I educated us on the doses, effects, and health-related facts that I had studied months before, and ensured her that the drug was quite safe in the right environment, had no reported deaths, and would be similar to acid in ways but much less of a dedication. She agreed, and at about 1:45 a.m. I prepared our doses, because I estimated that my previous snorted dose had to be well over 50 mg. I believed I could handle an even large dose orally. I gave us a 30 mg dose, which was somewhat irresponsible of me to give a first-timer a somewhat large dose, but I was just feeling right about it and she agreed to do the dose. I then acted even more irresponsibly and prepared a 70 mg dose which I parachuted, so did S. Please note I cannot recommend or endorse doing such a large dose, nearly 20 mg over the recommended strong doses. But my experience definitely justified my risk in my mind. We continued with lounging and listening to music for the next 20 minutes, while I plotted what music to listen to and what to watch eventually. At about 2:20 a.m. I started getting mild visuals and feeling warm and strange. I knew I was beginning to come up. S had not felt anything yet, but I knew it was only a matter of time. We chose my living room as the main spot to stay in, since it is extremely comfortable and lit with white Christmas lights. I loved staring at these Christmas lights on LSD, and decided to stare at the lights to help notice my visuals quicker. Each light flickered with a golden glow and appeared to wiggle around off the court. It was very neat. S started coming up shortly after me, and within about 20 minutes of feeling strange and mild visuals, we had reached a plateau. We felt equally overwhelmed with what we were experiencing. Reality seemed to be an endless moving, snaking, rippling and warping mess of dimensions in front of us. The structure of the room itself was always growing large and then smaller, and repeating, as the corner between the wall in front of me and ceiling raised lower and higher. Every large object in the room seemed to have this quality, and endless growing and shrinking of shape and size. I had a playlist of Beck playing on my hi-fi stereo, which sounded excellent and really hit the spot. Colors were extremely intensified yet diverse. I could see a large range of colors but also experienced color fringing. The fringing mainly occurred on bright objects like my television and laptop, and I can only describe this fringing as a loss of color wherever it occurred, leaving me with just an endless mold of bright green and magenta where the color was missing. I then remembered to be responsible and check on S, who was doing just fine, but very overwhelmed. I realized then that my thought process was extremely rushed. I kept describing what I was seeing and feeling out loud at a very fast rate, and constantly grabbing my face and hair out of pure fascination. Some side effects I felt during this dose included muscle tremors throughout my thighs, some rough nausea that came back to me in waves as soon as my thoughts dwelled on it, and very light teeth clenching. The nausea was very awful, and I kept drinking water to try and quell it, but it stuck around for another hour unfortunately. Looking at S was unreal. Her hair was mostly black but had blonde highlights, and it looked like each hair was snaking around in the air, yet staying a part of one massive shape around her head. Her pupils were fully dilated as well as mine, and I ended up letting her know she was beautiful. This friend is more of a sisterly figure though, but I felt attracted to her at some points during the trip. Unfortunately, she didn't mind my comment fortunately, and I kept to myself after that. I did imagine the concept of sex at one point, but was quickly grossed out by the idea. It just seemed like something that was taboo at the time. Hard to explain. After finally getting used to the beautiful setting in front of me, around 3:15 a.m. my nausea got the best of me and I vomited in my bathroom. It was over very quickly and I felt much better afterwards. When I returned to the room I decided to examine specific objects I knew would be interesting, so I started with my laptop. I was quickly overwhelmed with the humming, scientific device in front of me and decided not to mess with it, because the display was extremely intense. My vinyl records looked incredibly interesting to me and we spent almost 15 minutes just examining the covers. Meriwether Post Pavilion by Animal Collective features an already visually stimulating album cover, a kind of optical illusion that looks like the design is moving in a constant wave-like fashion onto CB. It swirled and waved like never before, and it looked like borders of the album itself contained some kind of beautiful infinite abyss within the album cover. S kept trying to stick her hand into it. I decided around 3:45 a.m. that before we watched anything I needed to look out a window or go outside and experience the cold, dark world outside. We walked into my roommate's bedroom who was not home, and peered out his window, and unfortunately the sight was boring, but I was quickly overwhelmed by my roommate's filthy room. His dirty clothes and scattered trash seemed to vibrate and slither across the ground, prompting my exit. During this whole room visit I could hear the song in the other room literally slow down and speed back up constantly. I felt my perception of time literally warp. It was unbelievable. S claimed she had felt the same way after I brought it up. I convinced S to come outside with me. We couldn't believe we had only been tripping for about 2 hours. Time was not something I could fully comprehend at the time. Simply walking down 2 flights of stairs to the outside world was a quest itself, and S had to traverse the staircase very slowly. The stairs looked almost as if they had powers and were alive. It was strange. Outside was magnificent yet unsettling at the same time. The leafless trees were frightening and the branches appeared to crawl around between trees. We focused on looking at street lights, lights in front of houses, and the sidewalk. We smoked cigarettes which were very enjoyable, and returned inside. At this point I was still at a steady plateau. I still felt like my thought process was rapidly looping back and forth between appreciating visuals, what to think about next, and what to do. I also occasionally felt quite cold, but when I put a hoodie on I would quickly get too warm. My leg tremors were completely gone and my nausea was also gone after the vomiting. After getting comfy on the couch with us, we smoked another cigarette, and decided to gaze upon the smoke. I cannot accurately describe what this looked like entirely, but I will try. The smoke itself looked as if it was being rapidly blown towards our faces. I realized a huge difference in the speed of the smoke after remembering that cig smoke does not usually blow that fast in a room with no fans. Heat. PRAC on. The smoke looked like it went to the end of the room in front of me but also right in front of my face, and the cherry of the cigarette flashed and seemed to vibrate. I would see images of the cherry flash out on each side of it and swirl around in the smoke. I then wondered if fast motion in front of me would blur. I asked Tess to stand up and then sit down quickly, and her entire body blurred with her down to the couch. The polka dots on her shirt actually stayed in the air for a moment. It was very mesmerizing. Around 4:10 a.m. I looked at my phone clock to check the time, and realized Tess was very quiet and just gazing up at the ceiling, wide-eyed. She said she felt incredibly tiny, and that time felt strange, and that she thought she was literally beside herself for a second. She seemed to dissociate almost constantly but only for brief moments. I felt only mild dissociation, and much less frequently than she did. I asked her if she was enjoying herself and she expressed much gratitude with her life and where she currently was and what she was doing. I felt very satisfied and happy knowing we got so far with no real problems, like any anxiety, panicking, etc. We then watched Wall, the Pink Floyd movie. It was one of her favorite movies and starred Bob Geldof. the frontman of the band the Boomtown Rats, one of our favorite bands. My TV was huge and the quality was excellent. The movie was very visually stimulating and easy to process. I felt as if I was quicker to identify themes and symbolism during the movie, and occasionally dwelled on the ideas and tried to expand on them, but I started to feel overwhelmed by the more global thoughts, and tried to keep them suppressed during the trip. The wall was amazing and Floyd sounded excellent as usual. After that I watched High Custodian, a 20-minute music video by Dirty Projectors, one of my favorite music videos. The soundtrack really hit all the right spots, and I felt extremely happy and satisfied hearing the tunes. I started to notice my visuals were rapidly becoming less intense, and by 6 a.m. I had completely come down. S seemed to still be at it, and dissociating quite frequently. Her trip ended around 7 a.m., and we finally decided to pass out around 8 a.m. A list of details of my visuals, constantly warping dimensions. Axis seemed to shift horizontally and vertically, creating a growing and shrinking appearance. Colors were extremely intense. Colors appeared to fringe sometimes, made some objects or shadows appear to have pixelated edges. Extreme motion blur. The entire color scheme of the room would occasionally change. An example is the Christmas lights projected a golden glow on the room, then it would appear to be bright yellow, then bright green, then magenta, then rosy red color, looping over and over again. Patterns cast upon walls occasionally. They appeared to be rectangular and magenta colored patterns appeared to move or slide around, such as my floral print couches, flowers spinning around everywhere. The appearance of S was different from my other visuals. She appeared to vibrate and images of her would flash on either side of her rapidly, causing a glowing aura kind of visual. Closed-eye visuals are not very intense or noticeable, but I was thinking, constantly being overwhelmed, but not upset by it. Total positivity. After my nausea subsided, I felt absolutely satisfied, excited, and ready for whatever was about to happen. Total happiness, increased empathy and care towards us. For the first half of the trip I would try to immediately expand on an idea or concept, but thinking about things globally quickly confused me or overwhelmed me. I could never really sit quietly and observe. I had to basically speak constantly about what I was seeing and how amazing it was. When I thought about my nausea, it intensified immediately. This is important. I felt as if me and S could influence each other's experience by talking about what we were seeing or feeling to each other. An example, she noticed the color of the entire room changing, and I almost immediately experienced the same visual. This happened several times. How my body felt, strange and fuzzy at first. Something felt wrong, but it wasn't a bad feeling. Muscles in my thighs trembled for about 30 minutes. Extreme nausea for the first 45 minutes to an hour, possibly because I did not eat since 2 p.m. of the previous day. But eating during the beginning of plateau was not something I was really interested in. Eventually, yes, and I ate carrots and strawberries. She experienced no nausea at all during the trip. I vomited, ending the nausea. My limbs sometimes felt like scrambled eggs, which made me want to sit down immediately. Occasionally I felt very cold, but when I tried to warm up I felt much too warm and I was stuck in this cycle. Annoying but didn't influence any dread. Peeing was weird. It felt similar to how it does on acid. Main and S woke up around 1 p.m. and felt fine but still kind of strange. Kind of a groggy feeling. This subsided by the early evening and life went on. S was extremely pleased with her experience, and so was I. I am pleased that the night went so well and I enjoy the stronger doses of this drug in the situation where I want to experience a lot of visual stimuli but do not want to commit to the 6 to 10 intense hours of an acid trip. This drug is kind of comparable to 4-OCO-DMT. Visually, I have only done LSD, 2CB, and 4-OCO-DMT, so I cannot compare this to any other psychedelics at this time. I was happy that my massive dose didn't cause any problems, and happy that S was able to handle her first psychedelic so well. Some things I want to experience next time are this drug during daylight and outside for a longer period of time, but not too social. I also have a large amount of visually stunning movies and sonically stimulating music I would like to experience next dose. I think next time I'm going to keep my 2 cats in a different room. They were comforting and cute, but their mischief kind of upset me and scared me. Parachuting seems like my favorite method, because railing the dose is just not worth the pain and parachuting hits much faster than a capsule. I hope this report provides some insight on this drug. Tilda J.